Alright guys, I've got another video request here. I'm going to be making like a shield. I want to cover some really simple things. Wood graining for one, and I want to go over the Boolean operations and how they can totally help us in what we're doing. So we've got the default cube. We're going to delete that. We're going to add a UV sphere. That's probably detailed enough for us. And we're going to move that off to the side. About there will do for now. We're then going to add an empty plane axis. And we're going to use this as a rotate point. And we're going to rotate our cube around that empty. So there's nothing there, that's why it's called an empty, but it's a selectable point in space for us. So we're going to click on our sphere and click on the little spanner down here. This gives us our modifiers list. Now we're going to pick the array modifier, and we're going to have relative offset at 0. We're going to have our count up to 12, because around this shield I want 12 rivets. And we're going to have object offset, and we're going to select our empty. I'm now going to go into it's a square box, I don't know what to call it. And I'm going to set my rotation down to 30 degrees, because 360 divided by 12 gives us the 30, and I've got 12 objects. But anyway, there we go. That's what then converts that linear array mesh into a circle. From here, I can grab and move any one of these. Obviously, moving it away makes it bigger, moving it makes it, and if I go this way in, it makes it even smaller. But what it will always do is, from this point, this center point, it will always be in a circle with 30-degree divisions. So I like that. That's exactly right. I'm going to go back to the modifier, which is the spanner, and click apply. That's going to permanently set that array mesh. I'm now going up to object, set origin, and I'm going to move the geometry to the origin. Now that's going to move the sculpt, because that's what this is now, or the object if you like, so that the sort of widget in the middle is now bang on dead center to the object themselves. And I'm going to line it back up with the center of the world, and that's going to make our life so much easier from now on in. So next up, we've got the metal rim that's going to go around the edge of the shield. So I'm going to add mesh cylinder, and I'm going to go to the bottom left hand corner, this little black box that's appeared, add cylinder. Before I do anything else, I can affect this cylinder I've created. So I'm going to add more vertices to smooth it off. I'm also going to increase the radius so that it's bigger than those spheres. And I'm just going to pull it down a bit. Yeah, I like that. Lovely. I'm now going to Control C to copy it, Control V to paste it exactly on top of itself, and I'm going to scale inwards until it's about the same distance in from the rivets as the other one is out from the rivets. And I'm going to go onto the left. I'm going to the scale toolbar, and I'm just going to scale it on that Z axis to make it bigger than the rim. Now if I turn it off, we can see that rim is a solid circle, so we need to cut out the middle section, which is what this new cylinder is going to do for us. So we click on the rim, the thing we want to be cut. We go back to the modifiers and we select a Boolean modifier. We're going to have that as difference because difference is for cutting out. Object that does the cutting, you can either select on from the drop down list, or if you've got a lot of objects or you're a bit confused, click on the dropper, and with the dropper click on the object you want to use. Right, what happens is a copy of the cylinder does the cutting. So if I turn this cylinder off, you can see underneath it the part has been cut out. Turn the cylinder back on and we can see the cylinder again. So what we need to do is apply that Boolean to make it a permanent operation and either turn off or delete that cylinder. Well, we're going to use it later, so we're just going to turn it off so that it's no longer in our way. We're now going to do another Boolean operation to join the rivets to the rim of the shield, because we're all happy. That's exactly what they want to be. So we select on the rim again, Boolean modifier, Boolean, strange word. And this time, because we want to join them, we're going to go for a union modifier. So we click on union, and again, we're going to take the dropper, and we're going to click on one of the rivets, apply that. And if we turn these rivets off, you can see underneath them there is a permanent thing. So we can select them and delete them because we no longer need them, because our copy has been unioned onto the rim. And now we have a shield, or a shield rim, with its rivets. Perfect. So we're going to create a plane, scale that plane up until it's bigger than the rim. Now a plane has no thickness at all, so we're going to select the plane, we're going to go back to our modifier window, and we're going to add a solidify. This gives that plane thickness and turns it into a physical 3D object. Now if we increase the thickness, we can make it a thicker or a thinner object. Now we want it to be 0.03. Yeah, no, 0.04. That's nice. And I'm going to move this down a little bit, so it's pretty much level with the bottom of the shield. Yeah, I like that. Now we're going to apply that thickness, that solidify modifier, to make the operation a physical piece of geometry. Our next job is to cut out a circle that fits in the shield, because this is going to be the wood paneling that sits in the center of the shield. So we're going to call back our cylinder that we simply switched off with the eye icon. We're going to scale it up a bit. No, we're not. We're going to select the cylinder and we're going to scale it up a little bit. And we're going for roughly, but not quite the same size as the shield rim. That'll do fine. Now, we need to use this cylinder to cut out a slice of this plane. Select our plane, go back to the Boolean modifier, and we're going to have intersect. Now what that will do, it will save only the piece where the two pass through each other. Right, cylinder 01. Ka-ching. Now if we turn that cylinder off temporarily, we can see we now have a circular plane running through the middle of the shield. So we know it's fine. We'll hit apply. to make that a permanent thing. Now we no longer need that cylinder, so we'll just delete and get rid. Now it drops down just a little bit too far here, so I'm just going to move that up. So it's flush with the bottom. Just so I have a nice smooth flat base to print along. That leaves me an inset. So next job for me, I mean there's many ways of doing it. You could certainly print it like this. You could paint a decal or an image or whatever on the shield, or to paint it up as a full metal shield, but I'm going for wood panels. So before I even think about that, I'm going to cut this piece of geometry here. I'm going to put grooves down it, deep grooves, to differentiate the individual planks. So I'm going to create a cube. I'm going to go back to scale, and I'm going to scale it along this axis. So it's bigger than my shield, and I'm going to scale it in so it's a nice distance to sort of indicate the individual planks. I'm then going to move it all the way over here. Modifier, array, relative offset to 0, and you can see up here we want to repeat it along the y-axis, so we simply slide on that y-axis. Now we want probably 4 of these, so we take our count number to 4. Yeah, that looks quite fine, and we need to make sure that the cut is going to be deep enough without going too deep as to weaken the back of that shield, because it still needs to print well. And to my eyes that looks quite cool. And don't worry that this is cutting through the rim, because we're only going to be telling it to Boolean out of this center section. So we're going to apply that modifier. We're going to select the bottom, the center of the shield. We're going to go Boolean difference, because we're cutting away, and we're going to select these slices. Now we can turn cube off to see how it's done. Yeah, is it deep enough? Do we like it? And I think that's fine. I like that. I like what I'm looking at. So I'm going to straight up apply that, and then because I no longer need them, I'm going to delete the cubes. Well, they were cubes when we first created them. Right, that looks absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to again select my plane, which is the center of the shield, and I'm going to bob up to where my view, transform and tools are, and I'm going to go to 3D printing. Now if you don't have this, it's an add-on. You'll find it in file, no you won't, you'll find it in edit, preferences, is it interface, add-ons. I've not done this for a while, and you'll type in 3D, and you'll see the mesh 3D print toolbox. Click that, exit this, everybody's happy. This tab will then appear. Really useful for what we do. So we have this, we've done several Boolean operations on it, so I want to make sure everything's manifold and ready to print. Instantly it's come up here, it's told me right in the center at the bottom that everything was fine, it didn't have to modify anything. The same here, modified vertices 0, edges 0 and faces 0, so everything's fine and perfect. Now I'm going to go once again into the modifiers. And what we're going to do is we're going to remesh this center section because we want to increase the geometry quite substantially so that we can sculpt our wood grain onto it. So we're going to add modifier and we're going to go to remesh. Now there's loads of ways. We could do a multi-resolution modifier. We certainly could, couldn't we? Yeah, well, you know, we could do subdivide surfaces, but I'm going to do remesh purely because that's what I always do. It works for me. It's real geometry, and I like real geometry. So we've gone up to 7 times. We're at 26,000 faces. Now if I jump into edit mode quickly, you can't see. You can't see. You won't be able to see it in there until. But I'm going to crank that up. I've got 100,000 vertices. I'm going to do it one more. I'm going to go all the way to 9. So I've got 300,000 vertices. I'm going to apply that. Jump back into edit mode. And you can see that's really finely detailed. I'll be able to sculpt on some lovely wood grain. Super. So we're going to hop into sculpting. And here we have our object. Let's go back to layout. Let's switch off the rim so that it's not in our way. And let's go back to sculpting so that, you know, we can't even see it. Even though we wouldn't be sculpting on it, it's nicer just not to have it here. So now we are. What is going on? Sculpt mode. This gives me all my brushes. I'm going to select the crease brush. I've forgotten to select my object. That's all that happened there. Now I'm going to make the crease brush substantially smaller. Say 8 pixels. I'm going to make it 10 pixels. I'm going to increase the strength quite substantially. This will make it carve much deeper. And I'm going to increase the pinch, which will give me straighter edges. And I'm going to increase the radius. Hang on. I'm going to increase the radius to 12 pixels. Yeah. That's good. That's a good size of wood grain. It's going to print nicely and do everything we want from it. And we are literally just going to draw on. Oh no, we're not. We're going to go to symmetry and we're going to turn off X symmetry. And we're simply going to draw on our wood grain. We're going to be reasonably careful not to get in the grooves, but we want to go right up to them. So set the view to somewhere comfortable. See, that's really nice for this next plank. I can see both edges crystal clear. That's going to allow me to draw in my grain really easily. just going to pop these on. We're not bothering, we're not worried by how this is buckling up my edges, because I can see that. Those are covered by the rim of the shield. Don't like that, it's ugly. Last but not least, I'm going to throw some grain on this end piece. Spin it round so I can clearly see the edge. Pop back to layout mode, switch the rim of our shield back on, and there we have it. Now the last thing we need to do is join the center with the rim. So we select our center, Boolean operation, union, because we're joining together, select our rim, click apply, and then last but not least, delete our rim, leaving just the one complete shield objects. Nice. That will do well. So right now it is 250,000 polys. That's not ridiculously high, but it is higher than it needs to be by a lot. So we'll go into our modifier list, we'll go to decimate, and the ratio. This is how we decide how much we want to collapse that geometry down to. So if I go to 0.1, give it some thinking time, and 25,000 polys, so it's a tenth of what it was. It still looks absolutely fantastic. You really can't tell. I say apply that, leave it there. 3D printing, make manifold. That's perfect. Now here there was 87 faces and 87 edges that needed fixing. That is because the sculpting went over the edges, it's created slight differences. And we're down to one edge, one face. And now at last, on the fourth click, 0 verts, 0 edges, 0 faces. It's now completely fixed every problem it had with it. And we have a single solid model that we can go to File, Export, STL, and save that within the computer system wherever you would like to save it. Let's chuck a material on it. Let's take that light, make it much higher. As you see, it's pretty cool the way Eevee reflects light. I do enjoy watching that. Turn it into the sun. And there we have our shield. I hope this has been some use to you, and I hope you'll keep plugging away at Blender. Right.